welcome everybody to this evening's Humanities Meet and Greet event at Ursuline College. I thank you so much, all of you, for joining us this evening. I know a lot of you have a lot that you're pivoting and juggling all at once, so I hope tonight will not only give you a lot of information about not only Ursuline College, but our depth and breadth of our humanities program, but I hope it gets you excited. Even if humanities is not your track, you're still looking things over, you're not really quite sure. I hope that this gives you a lot of information, but again, I hope it gets you excited about Ursuline College. For those of you that have known us intimately, and for those of you that don't, Ursuline College is a small liberal arts college. We've been around since 1871. Although the majority of our students are women, we are a women's focused institution. We do have programs, obviously, for graduates as well as for adult learners. So we do have men, although about 90%, give or take, of our population are women. We are located about, give or take, 25 minutes on the east side of Cleveland. And we have programs, like I mentioned, that are designed for daytime face-to-face. We also have classes that are strictly online. And then we have a variety of mixed courses as well. We have 20 plus undergraduate degrees. So humanities is just one of those, along with some other ones as well. So I hope that this evening gives you exposure to all the wonderful things that we have to offer here at Ursuline College. Keep in mind that this evening's recording is being recorded. Tonight's event is being recorded. And after the event, I'll make sure to send you all the link. Everything that we do will be posted on Ursuline College's YouTube channel. So you can feel free, if you need to step away, you can come back and look at the recording at a later time. As well as if you're interested in learning more about the institution, we will have a question and answer period tonight. So be thinking of those questions. We will give you plenty of opportunity to connect with us after the event as well, but then also feel free to also connect with your individual admission counselors if you have any specific questions, or if you think of anything after the event, feel free to circle back. Everybody that's on our panel tonight is more than willing to be helpful to answer any and all questions that you have. So keep that in mind, think of those questions. And so hopefully after this evening's presentation, you will be excited to make your world more. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and introduce who is on our panel presenting tonight at our Humanities virtual meet and greet. So I am Kate Teichman. I am an admission counselor here at Ursuline College. Also joining us this evening is Dr. Catherine Trostel. She is the assistant professor for the English department. Dr. Trostel, hello. Thank you so much for joining us. And also we have with us Dr. Jacob Waldemeyer. He is the assistant professor of the philosophy department. They are the dynamic duo that we have here at Ursuline, and they will be giving you some more insights. I don't want to spoil the fun, so I will let them do the rest of the talking from here on out. So I would like to first, again, welcome you all, and I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Trostel.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. Jacob and I have put together a presentation. As we were trying to think about how to organize this, we thought what might be most helpful would be to think through what our hopes are for a student who studies humanities. What do we hope a student who studies humanities will take away with the degree? So first, just a quick definition, what is the humanities? I think that when people get asked this question, they panic. A lot of people don't know the answer to what is the humanities, but it's really how do we record, process, understand, and communicate the human experience. So that might be a history book, it might be a novel, it might be a song, it might be in 300 years, they'll be studying our tweets that we have recorded about COVID. So all of these things are what it means to study the humanities, but it's really a record of what does it mean to be human. And Jacob, I don't know if you want to add to that.
I think that, oh, excuse me, I think I'm no longer muted, okay.
You're on mute.
I think this happens every Zoom meeting. I apologize, I should have gone ahead and unmuted myself. Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with, yeah, getting at the, just like Katie was saying, getting at the heart of human experience and trying to understand what it is that drives us, what it is about life that makes it worth living and worth everything that we put energy towards. Why is it that we do that? What makes it worth dedicating so much of our efforts to everything that we do as human beings? So sure, I know it's a very broad way of describing it, but the humanities really does try to get at the heart of these subjects. One of the reasons that I felt more and more drawn to the humanities in general and philosophy in particular is because I'd always had this kind of drive to kind of get at the bottom of things. And when I was interested in science, I wanted to get at physics because it seemed like it was at the core, right, of what the sciences are. And the humanities seem like they point directly at the core of what it means to be human, and asking that question about what does it mean to be alive as a human being. And also that question about what does it mean to die as a human being too. These are all the kinds of things that we are interested in humanities.
So next slide, and we'll start talking about what our learning objectives are for the programs. So Jacob, do you want to start?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the reasons why we feel humanities is extremely important, and one of the reasons why we're very dedicated to it at Ursuline is because of, well, I think it would be valuable to point to several examples that we see arising kind of as we speak, right, in the public. There are a lot of ways that people are trying to communicate that are not being heard or not being conveyed or not being delivered in a way that actually does the job of sending a message to people. And one of the things I have in mind is the attempts by so many in the scientific community to try to portray to the population what we need to do in order to keep this pandemic at bay, right? So there's a lot of there seems to be a major deficit in the skills that a lot of officials, a lot of experts have in trying to deliver an important message about how to manage ourselves during a pandemic to people. There's a lot of questions about, well, well, you probably have encountered on social media and in conversations with friends and family, a lot of differing opinions and a lot of differing views, and a lot of, I'll say it again, a lot of confusion about the facts about something. So in the humanities, we try to understand how best to use language and to use imagery and symbols to communicate clearly, but at the same time beautifully to people in such a way that they will receive it well, and that it will influence people's lives for the better. Is one way of thinking about how we communicate to the public. So I think we should, could we, Katie, do you have anything to add to that, or?
No, I think if we advance the slide, we should get some examples of what we mean by storytelling across medium. So you might think about writing. If you keep clicking, it should, yeah, speaking,
Oh, yeah.
Showing, and inspiring. So Jacob came up with these categories, but it's true, it's not just enough to write something about how dangerous COVID might be to a community. You have to inspire people to want to take action. So I'm thinking a lot about the rhetoric around wearing a mask, for example. How do you convince people to take responsibility and wear the mask to help the community stop the spread? So again, right, it might be the job of a humanist or someone trained in the humanities to figure out the most effective way to get that message across. So for example, you might be writing for a hospital. I know someone that does all of the messaging for Cleveland Clinic around public health. So that would be a really practical application for a humanities degree. I think there's more to this slide. Yeah. So if we keep clicking through it, there are different ways of writing. You could write an article, you could write a book, you could write an editorial. we analyze, we write newsletters. These are just lots of examples of the ways that we have to tell stories in our daily lives. And I think as we're moving into the 21st century, we have to think increasingly about the way that words are paired with images, videos, social media. Even the president uses social media as a main way of communicating. So I think we can't ignore the power of the internet and these platforms as well. Okay, so at Ursuline, here are some different ways that we try to teach you to think about communicating to the public. Composition classes, literature classes, graphic arts, critical thinking, research, and rhetoric are all different ways or lenses of thinking about storytelling.
Yeah, so one of the helpful kind of elements of that is that you can pick up that some of this is involved in persuasion, right, in communication and getting people to understand and to accept an important message. Right? It's a lot like there was a famous rhetorician, Cicero, who had said that one of the ways in which you draw an audience to a story or to a message is by creating a kind of mood where people are more receptive towards that. And a lot of the time we might try to convey something or try to present something without first making sure that people are in the right kind of mood in order to receive that, right? Now, one of the important ways that we can do that is with the power of story. And this is certainly something that we are emphasizing here. Just to share a little bit of an experience that I kind of had recently. One of the things that we try to do, as I hope I'm not jumping ahead too much, but as ethicists is as an ethicist and as a philosopher, very interested in helping people to grow morally and ethically and grow in virtue. One of the most frustrating things about that, though, is that as much as we might discuss ethics, as much as we might discuss moral philosophy and what it is that makes an approach to life more ethical or less ethical and so forth, it's very difficult to then translate that into something that will lead people to actually care or to want to live more ethical lives. And there are a lot of examples of people who are trying to conduct various forms of training in ethics and bias training and so forth, and they have some success, but the success is usually rather limited. But storytelling, as it turns out, and this is certainly something that has been found empirically and measurably, storytelling is very effective at improving people's sense of empathy. So one of the things that we can do in order to relate our experiences to others is to work up our own experience of life into some kind of story, into some kind of narrative that we can use to then share with other people how we approach a certain difficulty in society.
And I'll just add to that, I love teaching this article about Harry Potter and children, young children. They've actually hooked up kids' brains to little sensors, and they can see that their sense of empathy is scientifically measurable. It expands as they're reading Harry Potter. So even a simple children's story can often unlock different ways of looking at the world that can inspire us to be better cultural wayfinders or problem solvers. And in other words, how can we empathize with experiences that are different than our own? So I like to think of literature as kind of testing ground for what might happen in real life. It gives you sort of a chance to explore those different nuances. So yeah, should we advance to the next?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Now, how do I share what, yeah, how we share what we've learned beyond the university walls? This is something also that is a part of the public dialogue and the public discourse. A lot of the time you hear people talk about, or with some sort of cynicism or skepticism about what's happening in academia, right? Or the experts these days. A lot of the time people feel as though, well, that's the experts, but I'm not going to listen to the experts. I'm going to listen to my intuition or my gut or my instinct, right? So there seems to be but what the difficulty with that is that usually the experts are the ones who are the best at kind of assessing a situation, right? And when you go to college, you become an expert in your subject, more or less. So there's this kind of gap between people who have a very important and very deep understanding of a subject, and then those who might not. And then the questions are then, how do we build those bridges such that we can take our expertise, take our knowledge and our experience, and deliver to the public in a way that that treats them with respect and dignity and so forth. Right? And a lot of the time, that comes with recognizing that from one human being to another, we can build on our shared experiences, even though even one person happens to be an expert in a subject, and another person is, say, a lay person in a subject. We can still find some kind of common place, some kind of common ground, regardless of whether somebody is educated with an undergraduate or whether somebody else happens to have not gone to college and has chosen some other kind of profession. What is that medium? What is that baseline? What is that common ground that we can use as a bridge from us to them? Right? Is one way that we think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for students that just means that we're not just going to write papers in class. As a way of practicing this, we're going to be pushing you to create more public-facing knowledge from what you learn. So that might mean that you have to make a podcast or a social media campaign or something that is a lot more public-facing out of the information that you gather. In addition, obviously, to learning how to write traditional papers. So that's something that Jacob and I have been exploring.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next slide.
Should we go to the next slide? Yeah, thanks, Okan. Right, so one of the things that we, at Ursuline, one of the things that three of the things that we focus on is right in our motto: values, voice, and vision, right? In a sense, what the Humanities does is it gives you the ability to voice very well and in a compelling way what those values are that drive you, right? So when we think about what it means to be humans, sometimes we think about morality as a way to actualize our humanity, to live up to what our potentials are for being ethical human beings who contribute to society and who help other people. This is part of the reason why we're very interested in being as public facing as possible, because we want to cultivate a sense of care for our community. And in ethics, we explore lots of different ways of kind of working that out, both logically and emotionally. Right? Logically, we explore lots of different kinds of principles that might emerge through just kind of the reason, kind of the art of and sort of science of reasoning through what it means to be a human being and what it means to treat other people, say, as I would want to be treated, or to treat another person as they would want to be treated. What is it? What are some of the reasons why other people deserve our respect? Why do other human beings have dignity? And a lot of it comes down to some of those kind of foundational remarks about every human being being equal in value. And so this is one of the reasons why at Ursuline we want to help students understand exactly what that means and how we can apply that in all of the different kinds of skills we're going to be acquiring at Ursuline. And then, of course, how to apply that to life after Ursuline in the professional world.
Should we move to the next slide? Okay, so that kind of brings us, it bridges nicely into our next slide, which is our emphasis on community focus. So we have a pretty amazing statistic that 85% of our students will stay in our region, which is defined as Northeast Ohio. So as Professor Waldermeyer and I were considering how we might revamp the humanities degree at Ursuline to better serve our students and to better serve our community, a natural push for us was to move towards more public-facing scholarship and public-facing classes. In other words, why don't we use case studies and problems that are affecting our region, where most of you will end up remaining, but that also link out to global issues. So from the local, you can learn about the global. But if we think about our greater Ohio or Northeast Ohio community, we can think of problems that might be best served through the lens of the humanities in conjunction with scientific experts. So one thing that always comes to mind is the lead crisis. How do we solve the lead crisis? Well, it's going to be a mix of public health experts and then people who can come up with social policies that take into consideration the humanity of all of the people involved in this situation. And it's also going to take people to write the articles, the op-eds, the policies, the public-facing things that are going to get people the change that they need. So I think that's sort of our idea behind the community focus. How do we take the humanities toolbox, the things we've learned how to do really well inside the classroom, and apply it outwardly to our community to help strengthen our region? We talk about soft skills a lot. Humanities skills are called soft skills because they're not directly translatable necessarily into a career. So unlike, I'm studying nursing, I become a nurse. In humanities, you get a set of soft skills like critical thinking, like powerful writing, like public speaking. And those skills allow you to do or to tackle complex problems. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the humanities toolbox. It's those set of skills that you're going to be developing.
Right. And of course, we can add to that, with critical thinking, the ability and almost like an intuition you can build to then conduct some kind of research or to explore some of the information we have about the public. Some of our students do this in, for example, bioethics, try to get a sense for where there might be a deficit in our community in terms of access to healthcare, right? Or in terms of affordability of healthcare. So these are some of the things that we absolutely will train students to notice, first of all, and then to research and to criticize and to analyze as well, all with the orientation towards understanding more deeply what some of the issues are in the community and how maybe to resolve them.
Next slide, please. Okay, so these are some examples. There's a really great book out there called Training Wicked Students. And the author of this book, it calls problems that are really difficult to solve wicked problems. And his hypothesis is that humanities students are actually uniquely poised and best suited to tackle some of the really big problems that we're facing in our world. Examples he gives are things like climate change and global warming. Obviously, we need the scientists, but this is going to have a real human impact on the way we live our daily lives. And we're going to need humanists to tackle how do we get communities to respond appropriately. We're seeing this with COVID. I gave the example of the mask. How do you inspire people to actually wear the mask, create a community of care, choose ethically what they're going to do in their daily lives to help people stay safe? We might think about too things like systemic racism, lots of things that have been in the news lately. But I think it's clear that we live in an increasingly complex, an increasingly interlinked, and an increasingly global system. And our daily reality is really rapidly evolving. It's difficult to predict what it's going to be like in 5 years because of some of these big, sticky, wicked problems that are happening to us. And so I would argue that your humanities degree is going to allow you the agility and the soft skills and the tools to be able to be a key player in trying to resolve some of these major issues of our lifetime. Anything else, Jacob? Or
That was a very great way of putting it. Yeah. One of the things that that led to mind or hopped into my mind was thinking about all of the times when you oftentimes ask somebody why they entered a certain field or why they felt inspired to solve a kind of problem or to start a kind of movement or to open a project or to create something. Many of the times, people were inspired by something that was a matter of communication or a matter of media, something that they saw or read. something that was drafted very well by somebody with a deep understanding of what it means to communicate from one human being to another. Right? Think of a form of art or a novel that inspired you to address a specific problem, like the kinds that Katie was listing. Right? Oftentimes, the motivation, the drive to deal with these problems begins with something in the humanities.
So let's advance the slide, please. Okay, so this is something that both parents and students often ask, but what can I do with a humanities degree? And I attended a workshop a couple of years ago that was designed for professors to be better able to help their students recognize the power of their degree. And they had us do this fun exercise where we took a help wanted ad, like an actual job ad, and then we matched what we thought a skill in the humanities, how they matched together. And one thing that kept popping up was that employers want students who can deal with ambiguous situations. So ambiguity has been a hot word in job ads for a while. And what they're finding is that students who are trained on a particular path, like biomedical engineering or nursing or medical school, because they've been given a very narrow set of skills, which are necessary, obviously, and very important, but those students aren't as good at dealing with situations that don't have a clear answer because they've been trained to always know the answer, right? You have X disease and I can treat you in this way. But what happens when we have a situation where it really is a gray zone? We're not sure what the right answer is, and maybe there's no one right answer. Maybe there's multiple right answers, or there's not really a good answer, and we're gonna have to make the best out of what we have. They find that students trained in the humanities are best able to tackle those kinds of situations. And employers are often looking for people who don't have to be told all the time what the right answer is, but that can intuit, infer, and gather from the evidence, which path would be the best path moving forward. So you'll notice now when you scour job ads, you'll see a lot about gray zones or ambiguity or can deal with uncertainty. So that's something that I think is definitely a translatable skill set. But there are others. Obviously, critical thinking is always on the top of the job list, what employers think they want. But one thing that I think is important as you're moving through your humanities degree, if that's what you decide to choose, is to keep kind of a running list of soft skills that you've learned that you can translate to an employer, a future employer, and tell them, I know how to do this thing. Like I can write a convincing article, or I can create content for the website because I know how to reach a public audience, or I can quickly make ethically based decisions based on the evidence presented to me because I've practiced thinking in that way in my classes. So I would encourage all students to sort of think about how skill sets can be translated into the outside world, outside of the university or the college setting.
Right, and we're absolutely baking a lot of those intentions into the assignments that we give to students. So you will certainly directly see us challenging you to create things which, after you finish, or maybe even before you finish, if you go for an internship or some sort of or take on some sort of project like that, you'll be able to present something, like just like Katie is describing, something to an employer and say, yes, I'm very good critical thinker. I'm a flexible learner. I'm able to solve problems that cover topics that I'm a little bit maybe unfamiliar with, but that I can learn very quickly. We're going to encourage you to do projects that will actually show an employer that you can think critically, that you can actually resolve problems, or at least come up with potential solutions. So that's going to be built into the curriculum. Sorry.
I was going to say, to add on to Jacob, we're actually working on an electronic portfolio system that will actually allow you to take your 4 years of school, put it onto almost like a portable resume, but it will have examples of projects you've done that you can then bring with you as you're going job hunting. So if you've done a social media project or you've done a podcast, you'll actually be able to use those projects as examples to your employer of things that you're capable of producing. So yeah, we're definitely in conversation about how to make that easier rather for the students to bring to the workplace. Next slide, please. I think those were examples. Yes. So we touched on ambiguity and all of that. We just wanted to briefly introduce you to two specifically humanities-based projects at Ursuline. We recently received a big grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities to start revamping the humanities to be much more locally focused, as we discussed earlier. So we now have a pathway through our core curriculum for traditional undergraduate students. It's called Navigating the Rust Belt. So it's sort of taking our particular region and thinking about the challenges that we face and asking students to think about how to solve those problems through different disciplinary lenses that you'd see in the humanities, like history, like English, like philosophy, and then also some of the sciences. So we're going to bring in environmental science, we're bringing in art through digital photography. And our hope is that this pathway, should you choose to pursue it, gives you the intellectual framework to engage locally with the community so that you can be sort of a cultural problem solver rooted in the place where most of our students end up. Anything you want to add, Jacob, or is that?
Sure. One of the items that comes to mind is when we think about disparities in society, and we think about racial divides and the lack of integration that we have in the Cleveland area, how everything seems to be so siloed and there's so much discrimination and so forth. Right? One of the important ways in which we can understand that, one of the topics is history. There's so much history. There are so many reasons, so many events that transpired in the past that have led to the condition of Cleveland, particularly, and the Rust Belt generally. There are economic and social reasons for that, political reasons for these kinds of things. And understanding the history of those reasons in the Cleveland area will help us to better resolve some of those problems that we aim to try and fix.
Yeah, and if anyone's interested in reading some of those literary or historical texts, if you follow the link, you can learn a lot more about our grant. And there's also a downloadable PDF with a reading list of books that the team read that does describe some of the history of our region. But it's also, I think, important to note, Jacob reminded me that this initiative was also led by our community partners. So we partnered with a lot of organizations in the community that helped us to identify the problems and issues that they would want students to be able to tackle. So part of the Rust Belt pathway is going to be that you have the opportunity to intern or work with one of these community partners who are looking to hire students in the future who are interested in staying local and in helping us to improve our region. So those are just some things that you could explore further. And I think next slide, I just wanted to briefly showcase our fine arts and literary journal that we put out every year. This year, because of COVID, it went fully digital. So there's a link there so you can look at the entire magazine. But I just encourage all students, faculty and staff are also eligible to apply to submit pieces, to submit essays, poetry. These are examples of visual arts. If you like to take photos, photography, but it's just a really fun way to be connected to the community at Ursuline and is also a part of our humanities curriculum. You can take this as a class called Magazine Production and actually help put together this publication. Okay, next slide, please. Q&A. So you have our contact information here, obviously. And sorry, Jacob, I pulled that picture off the internet without asking if that's the photo.
There are worse pictures you could have found and chosen.
Thankfully, we're not wearing, maybe we are wearing what we're wearing in the picture.
Yeah.
At this point, we'd love to hear a little bit about what you're interested in studying and maybe what drew you to the humanities event tonight. And yeah, open for questions or comments.
Yeah, this would be for all of you that have never come to a Zoom session and so forth. So there's a little icon at the bottom of your screen where it says chat. So if you have, any questions for anybody that's, here tonight, we will do our very best to answer them for you. And then keep in mind, though, that, after you've let everything process and you have some questions afterward, you'll notice that we have email addresses for everybody that is presenting here tonight. So if you have any questions after the event, you just want to send an email and so forth, we are all eagerly looking at our emails to ensure that we are getting you the answers, that we're keeping you engaged and excited. So any and all questions, admission side or more about programmatic, use the chat function at the bottom of your screen, and we'll go ahead and try to answer those as best as we can. We have this idea that college and so forth is kind of turned on its head in this climate and so forth. And I just want to just point this from an admission standpoint, that the way that we work with students at Ursuline, we have what we call a holistic way that we work with people that are applying to Ursuline for really all of our programs. And what that basically means is, for all of you, is that we look at the entire person. We look at the entire student portfolio. We look at everything. So for a lot of our students who may or may not have had maybe a rough patch, or maybe don't have as substantive amount of experience, or the highest of test scores and so forth, we really factor in the entire student. So keep that in mind, that for any of you that have applied or are not really quite sure for a good fit and so forth, just keep that in mind, that we really try to consider the whole student for our programs when we admit. We really try to be mindful of the fact that you are a whole person, that you have so many parts and pieces to what make you who you are. And we do factor that in when we are making admission decisions. So, if humanities is your calling, or if it's something else, just keep that in mind. Again, we will try to do what we can to answer your questions, and really at any stage of the game. So you don't necessarily need to always just talk to your admission counselor. Dr. Coastal and Dr. Waldemeyer are very hands-on and want to be as transparent with students at any age, at any stage of the game, really. So if you're an applicant, or you're just thinking of coming and visiting us on a tour, or connecting with us virtually, they would be more than happy to connect with you and give you some further insights about why they chose to go on this path, what their journey was like. Because I think so many students feel as though, well, the professors or whatever, you can't talk to them, and that's not the case at Ursuline. We are a small school, and I think that every person that is at Ursuline, whether you're staff or faculty, really want students to be engaged and have the best experience that they can. So just keep that in mind, that they're not behind a veiled screen, that you are able to connect with them. It's not uncommon to see the president of Ursuline walking around like any old person. I mean, we all are very transparent, so just keep that in mind. And any of you, if you've got parents or significant others that are wanting to get some more insights, we'd be happy to talk to them as well. We are open. We are taking students to encouraging them to come to campus and really kind of connect with us, although we're not fully open, so to speak, in terms of seeing the whole range of everything. You can still get an idea. And actually right behind me virtually is part of Ursuline's campus. This is Lake Alyssa. So I'm virtually there, but we are on 60+ acres, kind of in this little this area of Pepper Pike, Ohio, and we would encourage you, to connect with us and come visit us. So I don't see any chats or any questions at this point. One last, thing, while we're all just kind of processing, is that, for admissions, if any of you are considering Ursuline or if you've applied, we have something at Ursuline called a rolling admission. So you can pretty much apply at any time, even if you're not looking to join us right away. You can certainly apply and get, an admission decision, and then figure out if we're a good fit or not. There are so many pieces that come with, applying to school, and we're mindful of that. So we try to help you and as best we can connect you. And certainly for any of you that are still indecisive about humanities and so forth, I'm glad that they brought up about, career path and so forth, that as a student, be mindful of the fact that once you're enrolled as a student, we do have career coaching. We do have a fabulous career guidance counselor, if you will, that will help you not only build your resume, but also help connect you with internships or fellowships. So, and that's throughout your entire tenure, but also after you're graduated. That career coaching and support never leaves you. So we're small enough that we're able to provide that for our students really at any age or any stage, if you will, of their enrollment. So just keep that in mind. That, once you're admitted, it's not just all about classes. We really try to help support you, in getting you internships or jobs, really at any stage, for not just, full-time students, but also for any of our transfer students as well. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah, I don't know, Kate, if it would be helpful to share some success stories of some of our current students, just to give people an idea of where they ended up. So just to give you a range, one of our students just got a full ride to law school, to Dayton Law. Another student is going to be a library archivist. She decided she loved archives. Another student is working at Girl Scouts for America. So there's just, I think like Kate's saying, through the job coaching, all of our students have been really pretty successful at finding full-time and rewarding employment after graduation. So I think that's sometimes the hesitation with humanities degrees. So I just wanted to kind of tell the students that our students do very well.
Yeah, we really try to really cultivate, those skills for our students. And, some are hesitant to, get the undergraduate degree in humanities, and some are not really sure if graduate school is in their future and so forth. So, this really gives that breadth of, you're not quite like Katie talked about, you're not quite so narrowed in, what you're studying and so forth. You really are having substantive skills that, you can translate into any field. One of our students that work with the accelerated program majored in humanities, and then she went and did the master's program at Ursuline in theological and pastoral studies. So, she got all these really soft skills, undergrad, and then, she found out, this is her calling in pastoral and theological studies, and she went and did that. And she actually works in the prison system, actually working kind of in, not really as a social worker, but more as an advisor, if you will, working with inmates. So talk about really wide range of skills that we have. And then, again, it's not necessarily meaning that, you get your undergrad and you must go, for your master's degree, although we would love for that. So these soft skills that you develop, throughout the curriculum and so forth, not only innovative, but it also is really kind of gives you a multifaceted, really career path, life path, really. And, so many of our students that are out there, want to make their world more, we are not, and some of us might not think of ourselves as activists, but when we talk about, the mission and values that we have at Ursuline, yes, values, vision, and voice, but also how do you translate it into make your world more? Small school, but big opportunities. So I just want to throw that little plug out there. I think really the biggest thing for anybody that's joining us tonight, if you're not really sure, if you're on the fence, come and visit us. Like I said, getting a feeling for what it's like to be a student on campus, whether you're a first-time student, whether you're a transfer student, or whether you're an adult student in the UCAP program. Getting a feeling for what it's like to be an Ursuline student, really connecting and seeing yourself here is really, I would say the best way to really get a feeling for what it would be like to be a student, at Ursuline, hopefully in this program. But if this isn't really the track that you're looking at, we would love to help you find your path. That's really, what we really try to do as admission counselors and as professors, is really just try to help connect students with their passion. any questions or anything that, we didn't hit on that maybe we would like to just circle back with, or any about admissions or, programmatic, anything like that. And again, keep in mind, you don't have to answer or ask any questions now. If you have any questions after the event, or you just wanted to, feel free to go ahead and reach out to your admission counselor. Of course, you'll see, emails and so forth for our panelists here today. Yeah, we're offering a lot of really great, incentives, being mindful of the fact that, we want people to still continue to explore Ursuline, but safely. So again, if you have any at all hesitation or questions, we're here to be helpful. Okan, if you want to advance to the next slide, I want to make sure that everybody can see our website. We will continue to have virtual events. Hopefully sometime soon, very soon, we will be able to have some events face-to-face on campus. Keep in mind, we will continue to host virtual events. We do have a YouTube channel, we have Instagram, all the social media, so be sure to connect with us and continue to connect with us on all of those sites. As well as this event tonight was recorded, and so we'll make sure to send you the link afterward when it's posted on the YouTube channel for you to go back and review it and so forth. And then we also have some more information that I can send to your emails after the event to give you some more insights about whether you're looking at humanities as a daytime student, or if you're looking at coming to us as a transfer student, maybe from a community college or from another institution. And then if you're looking at us possibly for our adult program in humanities, hopefully we have a path for you. So I think that concludes this evening's event. Any other insights before we say good night and good luck to everyone?
I just wanted to share also, and I think I speak for myself and Katie as well in saying this. We really do enjoy having conversations with people about our subjects or about almost anything that comes out. We're very interested. We find ideas fascinating. We find people fascinating. So really, if you do want to reach out to us and chat with us and just kind of use us as a sounding board for certain kinds of ideas, we would be very happy to respond and to have a dialogue with you. So just to put that out there, right? Katie? Yeah.
I'm definitely echoing Jacob. And I think Jacob and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't speak for Jacob, but I definitely did not know that I was going to become an English professor when I first started my educational career path. So I think that's really important to just point out that a lot of being a humanities student is finding your passion and finding what you're good at and kind of building on your strengths. And I don't think that many people wake up one morning and say, I really want to major in English and become a professor. I really want to major in philosophy and become a professor. But those soft skills that you are learning will help guide you towards your career. So please do reach out.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am so appreciative. Thank you so much, Dr. Trostel, Dr. Waldemeyer, for joining me this evening. And for helping to make this so exciting. I've been so excited for this event for so long. The amount of work that you all put into not only tonight's presentation, but also the curriculum to make it substantive and fun and really cultivate our students' interests is so wonderful to see. And your positivity from both of you is so wonderful to see. And I hope our attendees picked up on how excited and how passionate you are about the program. So I thank you both for being here. I thank all of our attendees for joining us this evening. Again, feel free to reach out to me. Our website is there. Also the admission email is right there. Don't hesitate to reach out. We will get right back to you. Thank you again. Continue to explore Ursuline, and we hope to see all of you very soon, either on a visit or as a future Ursuline Aero. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good evening. Be well and take care. Thank you.